Hello everyone, welcome back to Textual Treasury. In our previous episode, we explored the timeline of English literature. Today, we begin with the foundation of all the Western literature, the Classical Age. Although the Classical Age is not technically a period of English literature, but it is impossible to understand English literary traditions without first understanding the Greeks and the Romans. Almost every literary genre, critical theory, and artistic principle that later shaped English literature can be traced back to this age. So, let's travel back more than 2000 years and discover the world of heroes, philosophers, dramatists, and critics. What is the Classical Age? The Classical Age refers to the literary and cultural achievements of ancient Greece and Rome. It is often considered the golden age of Western civilization because it laid the foundation for literature, philosophy, politics, art, and criticism. The people of this age believed in reason, order, balance, and excellence. They sought harmony in life as well as in literature. Writers focused on universal human experiences rather than personal emotions. As a result, classical literature often deals with themes such as heroism, fate, justice, morality, duty, and relationship between human and the divine. Unlike later periods that celebrated imagination or emotions, the classical age valued rational thinking and discipline. Literature was expected not only to entertain but also to educate and guide society. Now, the characteristics of the classical age. Let us now look at some of the defining characteristics of this period. First, there was a strong emphasis on reason and logic. Classical writers believed that human beings could understand the world through rational thought. Second, they admired order, balance, and harmony. Their work followed carefully structured forms and artistic rules. Third, literature often presented ideal heroes and noble characters whose actions reflected courage, honor, and moral responsibility. Another important feature was belief in universality. Writers dealt with themes that could be understood across different cultures and generations. Finally, this period witnessed the birth of major literary forms such as epic, tragedy, comedy, and literary criticism. Forms that continue to influence everybody even today. With these characteristics in mind, let us now meet the great writers who defined this age. Homer, the father of epic poetry. Our journey begins with Homer, one of the most celebrated poets of ancient Greece. Homer is remembered as the father of epic poetry. His works depict larger-than-life heroes, grand adventures, and intervention of gods in human affairs. His two great epics are the Iliad and the Odyssey. The Iliad revolves around the Trojan War and the hero Achilles, while the Odyssey narrates the long and adventurous journey of Odysseus back to his homeland from the war. These epics established many conventions that later influenced English writers such as Milton and Tennyson. Now we will be talking about the three major tragedians. First is Aeschylus, the father of tragedy. As literature evolved, drama became an important literary form, and one of its earliest masters was Aeschylus. Often called the father of tragedy, Aeschylus expanded the possibilities of dramatic performance and introduced greater complexity into Greek theatre. Sophocles, the master of tragic drama. Following Aeschylus came Sophocles, who perfected the art of tragedy. Sophocles focused on the conflict between human beings and fate. His characters are often noble individuals who struggle against circumstances beyond their control. His most famous works are Oedipus Rex, Antigone, Oedipus et Colonus. Among these, Oedipus Rex is considered one of the finest tragedies ever written and is frequently discussed in literary criticism. Euripides, the psychological dramatist. The third great tragedian was Euripides. Unlike his predecessors, Euripides focused on human psychology and emotions. His characters appear more realistic and complex. His major works include Medea, the Psyche, Hippolytus, and Electra. Many scholars consider him the most modern of the Greek tragedians because of his deep understanding of human nature. Aristophanes, the father of old comedy. While tragedy explored suffering and fate, comedy brought humor and satire to the stage. The most famous comic playwright of Greece was Aristophanes. His plays criticized politics, society, and public figures through wit and humor. His important works include The Clouds, The Frogs, Lysistrata, The Birds. Through comedy, Aristophanes demonstrated that literature could entertain while also question social realities. Dealt with political satire and public affairs, Menander focused on everyday life. His works revolved around family relationships, love affairs, social customs, misunderstandings, and domestic situations. His major works include Dyspholos, The Grouch, Samia, Aspis. Menander introduced character types such as strict father, clever servant, young lover, characters that later became common in European drama. His influence can be seen in the works of Roman playwrights and eventually in English comedy as well. Pindar, the master of lyric poetry. While Homer represented the grandeur of epic poetry, another important literary form flourished in ancient Greece, lyric poetry. The greatest lyric poet of the classical age was Pindar. Unlike epics, which narrated heroic adventures, lyric poetry was meant to express emotions, celebrate achievements, and reflect upon life and human values. Pindar became famous for composing victory odes dedicated to athletes who won prestigious Greek games such as the Olympics. His major works include Olympian Odes, Pythian Odes, Nemean Odes, Isthmian Odes. Through his poetry, Pindar combined praise, mythology, religion, moral wisdom, making him one of the most respected poets of ancient Greece. Plato, the first great critic. The classical age was not only an age of creative literature but also the beginning of literary criticism. One of the earliest critics was Plato. Plato believed that literature was merely an imitation of reality and therefore removed from truth. His major works include The Republic, Ion, Phaedrus, and Symposium. In The Republic, Plato famously argued that poets should be excluded from the real ideal state because they appeal to emotions rather than reason. Aristotle, the father of literary criticism. Aristotle, the student of Plato, responded to his teacher's criticisms. In his masterpiece Poetics, Aristotle defended literature and explained how it functions. His major works include Poetics, Rhetoric, Politics, Nicomachean Ethics. Aristotle introduced concepts such as mimesis, hamartia, and catharsis, ideas that remain central to literary studies even today. His contribution was so significant that he is known as the father of literary criticism. Longinus, the critic of greatness. Another important critic was Longinus. His famous work on the sublime focuses on the power of literature to elevate the human spirit. Rather than discussing rules and structure, Longinus emphasized emotional grandeur and artistic excellence. Now we will talk about the Roman contribution. The literary legacy of Greece was carried forward by the Romans. Among the most important Roman writers was Virgil, whose epic, the Aeneid, became national epic of Rome. Horace contributed significantly to literary criticism through Ars Poetica, where he stated that literature should both delight and instruct. Another major Roman writer was Ovid, famous for Metamorphoses, a collection of mythological stories that inspired countless later writers. The classical age gave the world epic poetry, tragedy, comedy, philosophy, and literary criticism. It celebrated reason, order, heroism, and artistic excellence. From Homer's epics to Aristotle's poetics, the foundation of Western literary traditions were established during this remarkable period. As we move forward in our journey through English literature, we will continue to see the influence of these classical writers on every age that follows. In the next episode, we will explore the first textual period of English literature, that is the Anglo-Saxon age, and discover the heroic world of Beowulf. Until then, keep reading, keep learning, and keep preparing for CGSET English 2026. Thank you for watching and happy learning.